Come to me. All of you get my voice on screen. Guys, please confirm to me. All of you get my voice on screen. Yeah, Jayant, are you there? Don't send that kindly, please. There, you can take your own time, no problem. Huh? Then don't use the word kindly like this. So okay, that's your right. How much time you want to take, you can take. Right. Right, guys. And still, some people are not joined with ID numbers like Ramesh Anvaram, Srilakshmi Unnam, Subhash Jain. Okay, please at least check for it on tomorrow. And Mujifar, Amol, Lendal, Charan Kumar, Mujifar Malpe. So these members, please at least tomorrow onwards, at least. Okay, right. Yeah, Mujifar, then we are not lifting our admin calls. I'll say after the class. I'll take. All right, sir. All right, and check it, guys. Then what we completed there in the last session. I'm requesting to everybody. So this is Spring classes. At present, whatever the topics I'm discussing with you, like beans maybe, or maybe like a Spring configuration file. These are basics of the basics. One time, if you understand these concepts throughout our Spring, you will not get any problem. That's one point. And this core module, immediately after completion of this first application, immediately I will start what their core module. All right, in that core module, I'm going to discuss the concepts. These are very important even for like what there for the future Spring Boot microservices now. So this core module is a main dependency for what there Spring Boot and microservices there, especially for Spring Boot. So because of that reason, put more concentration to understand all the concepts there. But basic first application development is basic setup and basic, at least how to prepare a program, how to display some hello world. After that, we are going to start what are the concepts in a Spring core module. Okay. Right. Now let's see this point here. Configuration file. In the last class, we understood like what there, what we completed there. Bean classes. What exactly the meaning of bean? Then how to use this bean? Then how to prepare this bean? What is the need of this bean and all? In the point of Spring framework, how we are going to utilize this bean? The points are also important for us. Now see this one here. Spring framework is using the above classes with the following conventions. Above class in a sense like what they're bean classes. The above bean classes in the following conventions. What are the conventions? No, we will provide the total application logic in the bean classes only, not in any other one. We will use parameterized constructor in bean classes as per the requirement. But as per the bean conventions, then it is suggestible to use zero argument constructor and public constructor. But as per the Spring applications requirement, we are going to use what there parameterized constructors definitely. Next one is what there we will use bean classes to provide application configuration details. Yes, it is possible to provide what their configuration details also in the form of like what their bean classes. So this point is somewhat advanced point here when compared with our Spring, but I will show that in the future how to use that bean class there for the sake of providing configuration details now. Right. Then examples are given there. One is just normal bean class with only business method. Another bean class here we provided there, where what we provided some uname, setters and getters. Then after that, like what there, a normal and say hello business method here we implemented. That's okay, fine. Right, sir. Now, now after completion of this particular content here, what is the Spring configuration file? What is the purpose of this Spring configuration file now? Very clear. And one more thing, before starting this point here, I'm telling to you, tomorrow at Servlets and JSPs, I have to discuss about web.xml file. But today I'm discussing about Spring configuration file in this framework. Don't get any confusion between these two. Web.xml file purpose is totally different. Spring configuration file purpose is totally different. Don't get any confusion between these two now. But I'll give clarity for it. Fine. Now let's move on to the point here. Simple point. What is the basic idea of the Spring framework? What I give in there, how that applications are going on there. We have to keep our application logic in where? Bean classes. Bean classes objects must be created by whom? Container. Containers will create objects for what there? Bean classes. Then containers will supply that objects to us. We will get that objects from the container. We are going to access the business methods. This is basic idea inside the Spring. What is going on inside the Spring? This is going to be happen. Am I right or not? But here I have a question. I prepared a bean class. There I kept my application logic. I prepared a bean class. There I'm keeping my application logic. Clear or not? I prepared a bean class where I'm keeping my application logic. That's okay, nice. After that, who will create object for this bean class? No, container will create object for bean class. Now here the question is, how container will create object for the bean class? How container knows about the bean class? From where container will get the details of this bean class? To which class it has to create object? How container knows about this bean classes where we have to create objects? How it is possible for container to get all the details now? Got it or not? Right. Where the point is what? To know what bean classes are used in the application. To know to which bean classes it has to create object. To get all these details, container will come to Spring configuration file. By default, container will come to what there? Spring configuration file. Got it or not? Container will come to Spring configuration file. Inside the Spring configuration file, check for the all the bean classes configuration details. If it find any bean class configuration details there, it will get the class name, bean class name. Then it will search for the respective bean class. Then it will perform loading that bean class batch code to the memory, creating object for the respective bean class, and keeping that bean class object with a logical name with a particular identity in the container object. Container is like what there, a map object. You know, in the collections, map is available or not? Map is able to store the data in the form of what? Come on, map is able to store the data in the form of what? Key value pairs. In that way, key and val. Key is a identity, value is what their object that will be stored by container. Got it or not? Almost all internal flow of execution I'm giving there. Observe carefully. When I prepare a bean class, inside this, when I prepare my application logic, then container must create object for this bean class. But how container will create object for the bean class? No. From where container will get that bean class details? No. If it wants to create an object for the bean class, it must know the name and location of the class or not. Name and location of the respective bean class or not. So from where that name and location of the bean class details are taken by this container? No. Right. Container will get all the bean classes details from what their Spring configuration file. From where? Spring configuration file. From the Spring configuration file, container will get the name and location of the bean classes. Then once it is identifying bean classes names from the configuration file, immediately container will create an object for the respective class. Got my point or not? Oh, okay, fine. Of course, creating objects for the bean class in the sense there some life cycle activities are available. Object life cycle is available. Bean class life cycle is available. As per that only, container is able to create object for the respective bean class. Then it will manage that bean object along with some identity. If we search for that bean object on the basis of identity, then we are able to get that bean object. Then we are able to access our required business methods. This is a clear-cut information here. What I'm telling you. Yes, sir. All of you get my point or not? Oh, okay, fine. But now the point is what container is trying to get all the bean classes details from the Spring configuration file. That's okay. But who is providing that bean classes data inside the Spring configuration file? Container is trying to get bean classes data from the Spring configuration file. But who will provide that details inside the Spring configuration file? The developers have to provide that bean classes details inside what their Spring configuration file. As you are the developer, you know what beans we have used in our application. That all the bean classes entries must be provided in what their Spring configuration file. All the bean classes configuration we have to provide in what their Spring configuration file. If we provide these details inside the Spring configuration file, container will take that bean configuration details from configuration file and container will create objects for them. For example, 5 bean classes I've used. Out of 5 bean classes, only 2 bean classes I configured in Spring configuration file. Remaining 3 bean classes are not configured. Now tell me, container will create objects for how many bean classes? No, only 2 bean classes. Remaining 3 bean classes it will not create. If we register that bean classes in the Spring configuration file, then only they are eligible to create an object by the container. If you are not keeping that bean classes inside the configuration file, container will not create object for them. Container will create objects for only the bean classes which are configured in a Spring configuration file. For the ordinary classes which are not configured in Spring configuration file, container will not create objects. Yes, sir. All of you get my point or not? All right, so now the point is like what I'm telling to you. Spring configuration file, Spring configuration file, Spring configuration file is an XML file. Spring configuration file is an XML file. It must have all the bean classes, configurations, all the bean classes configurations which are required by the container, in order to create bean objects and in order to supply bean objects to the application. Right? Understand this? That everything I provide in a single line. What's the point here I'm telling there? Observe carefully. Spring configuration file is an XML file. It must have all the bean classes configurations, all the bean classes configuration details which are required by the container in order to create bean objects and in order to supply that bean objects to the application. Nothing, sir. Very simple. No need to have any confusion there. Which bean classes we are using in our application, give their configuration in configuration file. That's enough. Activate container. Container will come to configuration file. Container will take the bean classes names. Container will create objects for them. That's it. Not more than that. Sir, all of you are getting my point or not? All right, sir. Then how we are going to provide bean configurations inside the Spring configuration file now? Observe carefully. Listen, all of you listen carefully. To provide beans configuration, in a Spring configuration file, to provide beans configuration in a Spring configuration file, we have to use the following tags. We have to use the following tags. I'll give some skeleton, now try to understand this clearly. First, here we have to provide what the beans tag. There some XSD is available. XSD for XML files. All of you guys observe carefully. In XML files, to validate the data, two things are required: either DTD or XSD. Doc type definition or XSD, that is required. Got it or not? XSD schema might be definition, something else, right? XML schema definitions we require either XSD or DTD. DTD is a old fashion, XSD is what their newer fashion. So that Spring framework is using what their XSD approach, not DTD approach for validating the data. Every XML file must require either DTD or XSD. All right, now here we need to get what their XSD. How we are going to get this XSD? Not required to remember anything. I will show how to get that XSD clearly. By that we are able to get it. Okay. All right, sir. Now the tag is what their outer tag is what their beans tag. Beans tag. This is a parent tag. In our entire Spring configuration file, beans tag is what their parent tag. Inside this parent tag, inside the beans tag, we can configure so many beans. Number of beans here we can configure. All right, observe carefully how we are going to configure this. Now again, bean. That bean tag is representing what their single bean class configuration. ID is equal to something we are going to provide. Next one is a class is equal to something here we have to provide. That's enough. Observe carefully. As of now, only this information like this. So many things here we are able to provide. So many bean classes configuration here we can provide. At basic level configuration details I'm providing. By moving on to the concepts, I will increase configuration details in a Spring configuration file. As clear, all of you are getting clarity on this now. Right, sir. Observe carefully what I'm telling here. To provide beans configuration in the Spring configuration file, we have to use the following tags. First of all, what here we have to provide there? XSD. Beans tag, parent tag, where XSD is available. How to get that XSD? Then I will give clarity. Don't worry for it. Next one is inside the beans tag, we have to provide what there? Bean tag. Where in the bean tag, two attributes are available. Am I right or not? What are the two attributes? No, ID attribute and class attribute. ID attribute is taking what there? Bean object identity. That's enough. Some logical name. Like class attribute is able to take what there? Fully qualified name of the bean class. Fully qualified name of the bean class. What is this fully qualified name? Now tell me, guys. Come on, what is this fully qualified name? Providing class name along with the package name dot class name. In which package your class is available, where bean class is available, that package name dot bean class name, then automatically that is what their fully qualified name. Sir, all of you are getting clarity or not? All right, sir, that's okay, fine. Now I want to give that point here where beans is a root tag. It includes number of beans configuration. Number of beans configuration. It includes a number of bean configurations. That's okay, fine. Next one is apart from that, where bean tag is able to provide single bean class configuration. All right, sir. Where ID attribute in bean tag, where ID attribute in bean tag, where ID attribute in bean tag will provide identity for the bean object. Identity for the bean object, where class attribute will take fully qualified name of the bean class. That's enough. Fully qualified name of the bean class will take the fully qualified name of the bean class. Clear or not? Everything of this bean configuration is clear or not? 10 bean classes are available. 10 times we have tried bean tags. but only one bean stack. Here we have to write bean stack is representing number of bean configurations. Each and every bean tag is representing one bean configuration. Right, sir? Inside this bean configuration, so many subtags are available. I will talk later on about the subtags, not immediately. Inside the bean tag, we are going to write some other tags also. In the body of the bean tag, we are going to write some other tags also, but not immediately. I'll discuss about that concepts in the future, one by one all. But as of now, we can understand this is like what there a bean tag. That means this is about like what there bean tag here. Understand this clearly. All right, sir. That's okay, fine now. All right. Note here I'm telling there. Observe carefully. XSD here we have to get or not? XSD. I said you here XSD is required or not? But from where we are able to get that XSD, I'm giving clarity for you know, try to understand it clearly. Right. In a Spring configuration file, we have to provide XSD. We have to provide what there XSD. It will be provided by, that means XSD. Here we will get XSD from the following resource. Observe carefully what is the resource I'm telling here. Moreover, for the sake of you, I'm giving the XSD in the document directly. Not required to check at any location here. Directly we can copy from this document while preparing applications now. Right? I'll give that XSD. Try to understand it now. Right. Previously, we downloaded Spring jar files or not? We downloaded Spring jar files. Am I right? Where we kept that Spring jar files there, E drive. Inside the E drive in my system, softwares. And moreover, have you done the same thing previously? What I have completed in the class now? Downloading Spring jar files, keeping them in a particular location. Have you done them? All right. Good. In my system, E drive, softwares, frameworks, Spring up. Inside this, I copied that. Am I right or not? What is that version there? No, Spring 5.3.9 distribution. Right click on it and extract here. Already we got this. Am I right or not? Now Spring framework 5.3.9. Open it. Open it. Inside this lib folder contains all jar files or not? But don't go with that lib folder there. There we have to go for what there docs. Open the docs. Java doc API, KDoc API, something else is available. Go with the reference. Go with the reference. Inside this either HTML or PDF, that depends on your requirement. Let me go with the, like HTML. In that HTML, what is available here? Core documentation about our core module. Documentation about our what there core module. Double click on it. The total documentation will open. That means I'm telling to you indirectly, you can get that XSD from the documentation only. Already the documentation, Spring documentation has given that XSD for us now. Okay, where it is available here? If you scroll down, maybe in a simple attempt, if you scroll down, there we are getting some example Spring configuration file data. So where XSD is available or not? Just you can copy up to this. This we can copy up to this. Just we can scroll down. That's enough. Then we can copy this. Just copy this and directly we can provide here. And directly we are able to get it. That's enough. There we can provide like what there after completion of this. Right, sir. We can provide like what there ending tag for what there beans. Just I'm closing that one. Now inside this we can provide anything. That bean tags here we are able to provide. This is like what there XSD. Yes, sir. Got it or not? Now tell me from which location here I got this XSD. No, from which location I got this XSD here? This is the location. Okay, from the following location. This is a location / core.html. Yes, sir. Got it or not? This is in my system. This is in what there? My system. In your system, that location might be available where you kept your documentation, where you downloaded your jar files, and where you kept that Spring zip file, where you extracted there, and where you open like what there, and like what I'm telling there docs. Then inside these docs might be reference. Inside the reference like what there, something else like what there HTML. Inside this HTML might be open what there core.html. If you open there, we'll scroll down 1 or 2 times now. There we can see that example content. There we can copy that. So everybody is able to do the same thing. Nobody will remember XSDs. Java we can remember. What is the need of remembering XML? No? Already document is providing that. Just try to use them in our applications. So that we have to copy from this particular one. This is as per my system. This is as per what there my system. But you can identify in our system where it is available here. No? Just I'm giving that information to you as per my file system. I given that so we can understand it clearly. Following this point or not? Don't read this one also and don't copy that one also. This is for the sake of your awareness. I'm writing there. This is as per my file system I given there. All right. In your system, you may download at one place. You may extract the zip files at one place. There we can get from where we can get it clearly. Clear. Okay, fine. So this is XSD or else. Simply I'm requesting to all of you. Don't check in your file system also. Document I'm providing there and directly copy and paste it. That's more sufficient. For the sake of that only, I copied this part here. Clear? Right. So this is the way to get what there XSD. Now we are in a position to write our bean configurations or not. We are in a position to write bean configuration or not. Now example I'm telling to you, observe carefully. Example, now I want to give a standard name for this all my configuration file, but there is no standard name for it. No fixed name for the configuration file. Any name we can use. Some people are writing application context.xml. Some other people are writing what their spring-beans.xml. Maybe different names people are using as per their comfort. So you also you can write your own name for the configuration file. But my comfort is what there. I want to write spring config.xml. I want to write. What's my comfort here? Spring config.xml. There I want to write it. To write this XSD is required or not? Just I want to copy this here. Now here I'll keep that here. Now inside this I want to write some bean configurations. What bean configurations here I have to write there? Now first of all here I have to write bean. Observe carefully. Bean ID is equal to just I want to write like what there hello bean. Name what I have taken there hello bean. Then class is equal to I will write my class tag. What class here I have to provide there? What class here I have to provide there? Fully qualified name. Assume it. Dot Durgasoft dot beans is a package name where just hello is a class name which is available. My class name is what there? Hello. Again, I'm telling to you guys what is the purpose of this XSD actually. Again, I'm telling there to validate the tags inside the bean, to validate all the tags inside the XML file. We require either DTD or we require what their XSD. DTD is what their old fashion, XSD is what their latest fashion. So just to validate the beans, what is the meaning of validating the bean? No, is this bean tag is provided in the right location or not? Okay, if you provide bean tag, no, all the attributes are already predefined. All the attributes are existed or not existed. ID attribute is a predefined attribute or not, and the class attribute is a predefined attribute or not. Observe carefully. Of course, XML files contains user defined tags, but now we are using this XML file which is provided by whom, which is required to whom? Spring configuration file. Means that what's the meaning of it? No, Spring has defined some rules and regulations for its configuration file. As per that one we have to follow. Spring has defined what is bean tag, what is a beans tag, what is ID attribute, what is name attribute, what is class attribute. No, so as per that one we have to write. So all the tags are in properly provided or not? All the attributes are provided properly or not? Order of the attributes are properly provided or not? All the tags are provided properly or not? Everything could be checked through what there? Through the XSD only. So because of that reason, every XML file should have either DTD or XSD. DTD is the old fashion, XSD is a newer fashion. Spring framework is following XSD approach only, not following what their DTD approach. But still Hibernate is following DTD approach. Hibernate is following what their DTD approach. It might not be updated there. But Spring framework is following what their XSD. That we have to get. Got it or not? Clearly. Right, sir. That's okay, fine. Next one is what there. Observe carefully. Then after getting this, now this is my bean configuration file. Only one bean class I want to use, that I configured here. 10 beans if you want to use in our application, that we have to configure, right? Got it or not? That's okay, fine. So this is somewhat story. minimal information about like what the bean configuration file. Leave this one, that is completed. Then after that, after completion of this bean configuration file, then what next one, sir? Now tell me. Prepare test application. Prepare test application. Yes, sir, got it or not? Prepare what there? Test application. Good. Inside this test application, what we have to do there? What is the main purpose of the test application? The main intention of test application is, I'm giving some points first. Now try to understand it now. First one, activate container. Activate container. Okay. Activate container will have so many internal steps. Activating container in the sense it will have so many points internally. Okay. Right, sir. Then after that, get a bean object from container. Get a bean object from container. Then access business methods of the respective bean. Right, sir. This is the main intention of like what the test application. Activate container, get a bean object from container, and access business methods of the respective bean. That's it. Now let's see this one. First of all, activate container or create container, both are same. Let me check this. Create container instead of activate container, create container. I want to use both are same, no problem. All right, sir. Now let us see this one. Container. I want to write something else like what there container. Container. See, observe carefully. In a Spring framework, mainly two types of containers are available. One is a bean factory, another one is what their application context. Again, this topic is again new topic will come for us in the future in core module. But to complete our first application, I'm going to take only one container. That is what their application context I want to take. Okay, my point or not? What I want to take there application context container here I want to take. Right. Container. Observe carefully. The main responsibilities of container. The main responsibilities of the container in Spring applications is the main responsibilities of the container in Spring applications is number one. Tell me, you only tell me the main responsibilities of the container in Spring application. Now tell me, you only tell me identify the Spring configuration file. What is the first one here? Identify the Spring configuration file. Next one is what there? Perform or else when Spring configuration file. Again, I'm telling there, identify the Spring configuration file in the sense developer must give the name and location of the configuration file to container. As per the developer's information only, it will identify the Spring configuration file. When a Spring configuration file is identified, container will perform loading configuration file. Container will perform loading configuration file, parsing configuration file, and reading the data from configuration file. What it is performing the three actions. When it identifies Spring configuration file, load XML file content to the memory. Parse that XML file. Parsing in the sense like what they're checking all the tags are good or not. Then everything is properly provided or not. If any error is available inside the Spring configuration file or not. After that, read the data from the configuration file. Got it or not? Then after that, point number 3, after getting data from configuration file, Spring container configuration file, container will recognize all the beans configurations. After getting data from configuration file, container will recognize all the beans configurations, and container will create all the bean classes, content will create objects for, content will create objects for all the bean classes, which we configured in a Spring configuration file. How it will create, we will discuss again later on here. But simply, we can understand, as simple as we can understand, when it identifies the Spring configuration file, read the data. From the data, it will recognize bean configuration details. Then it will create objects for all the bean classes which we configured in the Spring configuration file here. Clear? Right, sir. Next one is what there. After that, point number 4. After creating bean classes, after creating bean objects, container will manage all the bean objects, along with their identity values. Identity values we provide in the configuration file or not? ID attribute is available, right? Along with ID attribute, we provided that value or not? That is an identity, right, sir? Identity values. That means ID attribute values. Right, sir. This is that fourth point here we have to understand. Okay. Now this is the job of like what there? Container. Come on, guys. Now tell me what exactly the job of the container here? What we have seen there? The main responsibilities of the container in Spring application is what there? Identify the Spring configuration file. When a Spring configuration file is identified, container will perform loading configuration file, parsing configuration file, and reading the data from configuration file. Next one is what there? After getting the data from configuration file, container will recognize all the bean configurations, and container will create objects for all the bean classes which we configured in the Spring configuration file. After creating bean objects, container will manage all the bean objects along with their identity values, that is ID attribute values. Yes, completed or not? Right, so now this is like what the container responsibility here. Creating container in the sense at the time of creating container, this is what exactly the things are going to be happen. All right, sir. But how we are going to create the container? That's my content here. Right, sir. Creating a container. That's the point actually. But how we are able to create the container? How it is represented here now? Observe carefully. I'm going to give some clarity. Some predefined library I'm telling that, try to understand it. No, to represent a container, Spring framework, or else maybe just I'm giving there. Spring framework has provided the following two types of containers. What are the two types of containers now? First one is bean factory, second one is application context. Bean factory and application context. All right, as of now, I want to go with application context. I don't want to go with what their bean factory. Why? Because bean factory is somewhat outdated. Application context is what they're at presently used one. So I want to use that what their application context. Directly, I want to go with that. To represent application context container, Spring framework has provided a predefined interface in the form of some package name is available, not required to remember that package. No, arg.spring framework is a common up to core module. Arg.spring framework.core is okay. There some other sub packages are available, not required to remember these packages. No, directly we can use it. Application context, when it is an interface, no, then implementation classes must be available or not? Implementation classes must be required or not if it is an interface there. So to represent application context container, Spring framework has provided a predefined interface in the form of application context, and Spring framework has provided an implementation class for application context in the form of in the form of, now so many implementation classes are available, but one of them I'm writing now. What is that one? XML class path. XML class path. XML class path application context. Class path XML application context or XML class path. Class path XML application context, I think so. Class path XML application context. Right, sir. What is this implementation class here? We can understand there. Class path XML application context. I think so. Let me check once. Right, sir. So what we required here, class path XML application context. I'll check it. In the case if it is wrong, then I will change it. No need to worry for it. Right, sir. To represent application context, class path XML application context only. That's okay. That we are going to provide. But how we are going to create object for it? See this one. To create class path XML application context object, we have to use the following constructor. What is this constructor there? Observe carefully. Public class path XML application context of string config file name, config file path, config file path that we have to provide. To create a class path XML application context object, we have to use the following constructor. Right, example I'm telling you, now try to observe carefully. Application context is equal to new class path XML application context of, I need to provide the name and location of what there, Spring configuration file here as a constructor, as a parameter to the constructor. Simple, I want to use like what there, Spring config.xml. It will check in the class path. The Spring config.xml will check it in what there, class path. Class path in the sense, in the case of like Eclipse IDE, SRC folder. SRC folder by default it will available under what there, class path. SRC folder is available under what there, class path. Observe carefully. Right, so now this is what we have to do then. So now the point is what there, when we execute this particular instruction, now when we execute this particular instruction, now what container will do? Container will perform all these activities. Container will perform what there, all these activities. Got it or not? First identify the Spring configuration file. Here already we provided the configuration file name and location or not? It will identify the configuration file. Next one is what there, when Spring configuration file is identified, container will perform loading, parsing and reading the content from configuration file. After getting the data from the configuration file, container will recognize the bean configurations and container will create bean objects. Will create for objects for all the bean classes which we configured in the Spring configuration file. After creating bean objects, container will manage all the bean objects along with their identity values. Identity values are like what their ID attribute names, ID attribute values. Spring Framework has provided the following two types of containers: bean factory, application context. Then to represent bean factory, then that information here I gave in there clearly. Yes, sir, got it or not? Or else maybe I want to change this context here, what I've given there. Just give a minute of time. 1 minute, 1 minute. Don't worry. Then I want to give better understanding for you. So that I want to write this information here immediately. Okay, just wait 1 minute now. Here I'll write the information. The main purpose of container is to create bean objects and to manage bean objects along with their identities. Right. That's it. This is a basic point. No, Spring Framework has provided the following two types of things. Okay, to represent application context, that content is okay, fine. Example code here we provided. Now here I'm telling there, when we create container object like above, container will perform the following actions. Now this is an internal flow. No problem. Then like now try to read the document, you'll understand clearly. First of all, I give an introduction part for what there beans. That means what exactly the main purpose of the container. Then how many containers are available? A bean factor and application context. Bean factor I will discuss later on. Application context I'm discussing there. Application context information here I've given there. Then after that, what I'm giving there, when we create the application context object like this, what container will do? What application context will do? Now this is the internal flow. Identify the Spring configuration file. Then when Spring config, then remaining part is very common here. Understand my point or not? So just I change the order of the introduction. That's it. Not more than that. Fine. Finally, here we understood clearly how to create a container object. Finally, when we create container object, bean objects are available with the container or not? Bean objects are available in the container or not? Right, sir. Then people are asking to me, if we don't pass Spring config.xml file, then container will create an object or not? What is this question? No? If you want to create a bean object by the container requires Spring configuration file or not? Okay, then Spring configuration file is created or not? That means, like what I'm telling there, container object is created or not? It might be there. XML class path, that means XML class path or maybe class path XML application context constructor is available with 0 argument, no, then an object will be created. If it is parameterized constructor, there we must pass what there, Spring configuration file is a parameter. That depends on the predefined library. Go and check with predefined library, there we will get more clarity. Okay, leave this one here. All right, observe carefully. Now this is completed. After creating bean object, after getting bean objects in the form of container, then what's our next responsibility? We have to get bean object or not? Come on, we have to get bean object or not? Bean objects are already maintained by container, so we have to get that bean objects or not? Observe carefully. Right now, the points I've given there. Observe carefully. Get a bean object from the container. Now tell me, I'm asking one more question to all of you guys. Bean objects are managed by the container with identities or not? With identities or not? That identities are already provided in the configuration file or not? All right, now observe carefully the point. No, to get a particular bean object, to get a particular bean object from container, to get a particular bean object from container, we have to use the following method from application context. What is this method here? Public object. That bean object will be written in the form of like what there, object get a bean of string id value, identity value. Example I'm telling to you, observe carefully. Hello is my bean class name. Hello is equal to context dot get a bean. Context is what there? Application context reference variable. Context dot get a bean of identity. What I provided for hello bean actually in the XML file. Hello bean. What is the identity here we provided there? Hello bean identity I provided or not? All right, so now let me copy this. All right, so here we need to provide this bean here. Like this here we have to provide. Got it or not? So when we provide like this, automatically here we are getting that bean object. Next one is what there? Accessing business methods. Right, so next one is like what there? Access business methods. Then once we are getting bean object reference now, it's very simple to access what there? Business method. Hello dot say hello method. Hello dot what there, say hello method. If it is written some string value, then we can take like what there, string message is equal to hello dot say hello. That's enough. Automatically we are able to get the string value here. Then we are able to display the total data. System out dot println of message. That's it. Now the other steps here we can understand. All steps are completed. The remaining part is what there, we have to go with application. Right, sir? Just 15 more minutes of time is available. Can I finish application now? Yes, I will finish this application within 2 minutes of time. Now try to observe this clearly. Every step I want to show. Already we created project, right? We added what there, Spring jar files, right? Already our application is ready or not? There we have to provide files and folders only. Clear? Can I go with that? All right, so now let me open my Eclipse IDE. Already we opened that Eclipse IDE. In the previous classes, we prepared Java project. To that Java project, we added all the required jar files. After that, we have done. Tell me guys, what jar files we required there? What jar files we required there? Spring-core, Spring-beans, Spring-context, Spring-context support. Then Spring- another one, context support is okay. Next one is a commons-logging. These many jar files we required at a startup mode. By moving on to the next concepts, no, some other jar files will be added to this library. That's it. Once it is open, then we'll start application. No, just wait a minute of time. Once it is coming there, I'll prepare our application clearly. I think I started it, taking some time. Right, sir. Today, anyway, I'm going to show this application to you. Try to complete this application today itself. Very, very simple application, only no confusions. Even not like JDBC, not like any other one. Straightforward implementation. Observe carefully. All right, sir. I think all of you might be aware about this application, right? How I created. Or else you want to see one more time? Directly, can I proceed with this application? All right, sir. Nice. All right, sir. Now observe carefully. Now reference library is also available. Required libraries here we provided. Commons, logging, beans, context, context support, core, expression. I think we forgot this expression there. It's also required. Okay, fine. Leave this. Now, first of all, let me prepare. Is it visible to all of you? 1 minute, 1 minute, 1 minute. Right, sir. Now see this one. Now here, first of all, I think so module is created, but not required to create this module here. Not required. This module information we don't require, just leave this one. Or else do one thing. Let me create again project here. Just 2 minutes. Why? Because some unnecessary things are created. Let me create once again that project now. Just observe carefully. 1 minute of time. Create Java project. I want to go with app01. Observe carefully. Then Java SC, that's okay, fine. Everything is okay. Then click on next button. Inside these libraries are okay, fine. Right, that's okay, fine. Libraries here itself we can add, but later I will add that. Okay, no problem. Even though it's created, no need to think about it. Let me add that library is there. Then go with properties. Then Java build path, libraries, class path, class path. Here what we have to do there, add actional jars. All right, now commons lagging is required or not? This is one thing. Then again, class path, add external jars, like what there spring framework, libs. All right, what we required here now, observe carefully. Bean is required, context is required, context support is required, context is okay, context support is required, core is required. Then apart from this, what we required here, expression. All the required libraries we added or not? That's enough. All right, sir. Now here, apply and close. They're available for us. Right click on SRC, new. Now I want to prepare a package. Package here I'm going to prepare. What is the package name here? Observe carefully. Com dot Durgasoft dot. Of course, either we can use application name or not required to use application name. There we can go with what there, beans. Beans is a package now. Click on it, beans package. Inside this beans package, no new. I want to prepare like what there, a class. What is my class here? I want to prepare there hello. Hello is a class name. Nothing, simple bean class hello. Right, son. Now inside this hello class, what I'm going to write my business method, public string say hello. That's enough. Later I'll provide some other details. No, simply I want to provide like what there, return hello user. The simple message here I want to display. Return hello user. Okay, right, son. After getting this hello user, then what we have to do there? This is completed. After that, now let me go with that other one here. Bean class is ready. Next one is I need to prepare XML file, Spring configuration file here. Observe carefully. In general, configuration files, XML files will be provided under resources folder. In general, some name is like what the resources. Where it is going to be available there, that is going to be available under source folders, not under SRC exactly. I want to create a separate source folder where I'm going to prepare what there, that Spring configuration file. That source folders will come under directly class path. So our context is able to get it. Application context is able to get it. So what I'm telling there, right click on our project, right click on our project, new. Then what is available there now? See this one, source folder. Got it or not? Right click on project, new source folder. Select it. There we have to give that folder name. What is that folder name here? Just I want to give like what there, resources. In general, under these resources only, we are going to prepare XML files. We are going to prepare properties files. We are going to prepare like what there, some JSON files and all. Okay. Now resources. Click on finish. Under these resources, I want to create like what there, my actual content. Right click on these resources and the new. Here I need to prepare one XML file. Do you have any XML here? Others. Click on others here. Now just type XML. Automatically in the search we are able to get it. XML. Now here we can see that what there, XML file. Select it. Now here we need to provide XML file name or not? XML file name. What is that XML file name here? We have to provide there spring config.xml. What is my XML file name there? Spring config.xml. Now click on next button. All right, sir. Now here create from template or maybe schema, no issues. Click on next button here, then click on finish button here. Now automatically XML file is created. With this particular prologue only XML file is created. Then now tell me what we have to do there. We need to get XSD or not? From where we are able to get XSD? Of course, either we can go with the document. For you, I'm giving that XSD in the document there, or else maybe I want to go for E drive, softwares, inside this frameworks, Spring, inside this Spring framework, docs, inside this docs reference, HTMLs, where I have to open with what their core. I will do this one every day. At least you may identify that what I'm doing there every time. Or else if you feel difficult with this approach, directly in our document we can get it. All right, so scroll down. There definitely here we are able to get like what there, XSD here now. This total XSD here we are getting there. Now try to collect it. Copy this. Now come to this one. Here, this one also be copied there. Just we can provide this clearly. Now here we can provide what their beans. Now inside this, I need to provide bean configuration or not? Only one bean class I provided with my application logic. Then I need to create its configuration or not? Then what I have to provide there? Bean class here we have to provide. Right. Inside these two attributes only we have to take. What are the two attributes? No. ID attribute. ID is equal to what there? ID is equal to what there? Halloween. Any name we can use. ABC, XYZ also we can use. But on the base of that name only we have to get bean object. Next one is what there. Then after that we have to go with what there? Class attribute. In class attribute we have to provide a fully qualified name or not? Tell me what is the fully qualified name of the hello class? No. Come on. Com dot Durgasoft dot beans dot what is that one there? Hello. If you have any dot there we can check for it. Com dot Durgasoft dot beans where the class name is what there? Hello. That's okay. Finish. My configuration file is ready or not? When we completed our configuration file, then what next one here we have to do there? Come on guys, what next one here we have to do there after completion of this configuration file now? We have to prepare a test application or not? Alright, so now let me go with that test application. Right click on SRC, new package. I want to create a separate package. What is this package here we have to prepare there? com dot Durgasoft dot test. Application name if you want to write, we can write. Otherwise, directly we can go with the test. Alright, so now create package info dot Java is not required. Anyway, click on finish now. Module info is also not required, sir. Then why it is creating now? I think ID is creating that. Not required. Just we can delete even. I'm not using that modules and all. That is right from Java 9 version. Not required here. Alright, sir. Now anyway, test is available. Right click on it. New. Here we have to go with what there? A class. What is the class name here? I'm going to prepare their test. Alright, sir. Main method is required or not? Select main method. Click on finish button. Test.java is available. Clear? Now, first of all, we need to create the application context object or not? Observe carefully. No need to type the total content here. Just the application context. If we do that, yeah, application context here we are getting there. It's an interface basically. Application context is equal to new. Then what we have to provide there? Class path XML application context here we have to provide or not? Observe carefully. This is what their zero argument constructor. But I don't require zero argument constructor. Without configuration file, it is creating application context object. But I need to provide what there now. Tell me, I have to provide parameter or not? What parameter here I have to provide there? Name and location of the Spring configuration file. Tell me where I provided this name and location of the Spring configuration file. I provided that Spring configuration file under resources folder or not? Listen carefully. All source folders are available under class path. SRC is one source folder. Resources is what there? Another source folder. These source folders are by default available in what there? Class path. No need to specify any location. Directly we can specify what their file name. Directly we can specify what their file name. Say for example, if Spring config.xml is available under SRC folder in a package now. Now we have to give that location data. I will show even that one also. Don't worry. I will show even that one also. By that we are able to get some clarity. Now see this one. Now here I need to provide like what there Spring config dot XML. All right, sir. So application context is equal to new class path XML application context Spring config dot XML here we provided. All right. Then I need to get bean. See, whenever we created this object now, immediately application context will search for Spring context Spring config dot XML. If it is identified, loaded, parsed, and reading the data, then after that recognizing bean configurations, no, creating objects for all the bean objects, storing that bean objects along with their identity. Then after that we have to get bean object or not. Bean object is ready with application context with this particular statement. Then we have to get that bean object or not. All right, sir. Now tell me what is that bean object actually? Hello. Hello is equal to, now observe carefully, application context dot get bean method is available. There we have to pass some identity or not? What is that identity I provided there in the Spring configuration file? Come on, what is that identity I provided here? Hello bean. Copy this. Now here we have to provide 1 minute. Right, don't worry. Now here we have to provide like what there, that hello bean that we have to provide. But observe carefully. Get bean method will return hello bean object in the form of object type. It will return in the form of what there, object type. But I require in the form of what there, in the form of what there, hello. Object is a common and default superclass for every class or not? Internally bean object is hello object only. But that will return in the form of what there, object type. Why? Because get bean method return type is what there, object type. So I need to convert that bean object from object type to hello object or not? Conversion is required or not? That means typecasting is required or not? Which type of typecasting it is? No, is it upcasting or downcasting? Downcasting. Object type to bean type. Object type to hello type. What I required there? Downcasting is required here. Observe carefully. When I move my cursor to that error, that means red line. There we are getting what there? Add cast to hello. Just click on it. Finish. Automatically here we are getting what there? Hello object here we are getting. That's okay, fine. Next one is whenever we are getting bean object, just simply we have to access that business method or not. What is my business method actually? In hello, return hello user is available. Now let me check this one. Right, so now let me get like what there, string message is equal to hello dot what's that method here? Say hello method. Here we are getting that message. No, now here sys.out.println of sys.out.println of just we can display like what their message. That's enough. Completed here. Then after that, what next one here? After completion of this one, whenever we are getting this particular one, then directly we can execute this now. If we run this one, automatically our output we are able to get it clear. See this? We are getting your required output or not? That's it. Now this is about like what there, the very first application on like what there, Spring. Just a hello world application, basic components I've used. I need to go with what there, more and more other components also clearly. Just 1 minute now. Let me copy this application there. Right, so now example here I'm providing there hello.java, and the next one config.xml. So watch the video clearly and try to complete this application. Test.java. Right, sir. Every day I'm going to give 1 or 2 programs that are concept related, but that applications here we have to complete every day. So without failure, you must complete these examples. Right, sir. Got it now? Right. Now I'll see the remaining part on what there tomorrow. Tomorrow will continue the part. This Saturday and Sunday I'm going to take somewhat sessions there. I'll give that schedules on tomorrow. Tomorrow I will give clarity, much clarity, how I'm planning for this Saturday and Sunday sessions now. But first application is completed. Today, at any cost, you have to complete this application. How you have to complete this application? No, first to read the document clearly, what I've given. Steps to prepare first Spring application like this again, read the document clearly, where internal concepts also be covered. After that, start to prepare the program. Don't have any confusion, don't have any errors. Try to complete this first application. Then tomorrow I will show some extension of this program, some experiments I want to do on this program so that we are able to get much clarity. Right? That's all, guys. That's all for today. Then tomorrow we'll see the remaining part. Thank you. Thanks a lot. Guys, and those who are not getting recordings, videos recordings, I think already recordings are submitted to everybody. If you're not getting it, no, WhatsApp to this number, your pay slips and all, you can send to this number, or else send it to this mail ID. So our people will send to you the access link. Almost all the members are getting there. If any of you are not receiving the recordings, no, just you can WhatsApp to this number, your pay slips and everything, then our people will send to you. Okay. Right. Right, Jayant, right. Your thought is right. Right, guys. That's all, guys. Thank you. Thanks a lot. We'll meet on tomorrow.